Welcome back, everybody. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, we are going over this handguard right here from Daniel Defense. This is their newest offering, at least that I'm aware of, and this is the RIS III. Essentially, it is an update of the RIS II, and we're going to kind of walk through the history here real quick because I know a lot of folks who watch this channel are dorks about AR-15 history. So let's talk about it, right? This is where we're at now, but we've come from other places. So basically, it all started out with the Knights RIS I, which was essentially a drop-in quad rail that was used on the original Mark 18, I believe the Mod Zeros. And then after that, they went to the RAS, so the RAS system that you guys see here and that many of you are aware of. These have been prolific on M4s and M4A1s for almost 20 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about, but obviously it gave you the option to mount lasers, lights, etc., and actually have them hold zero. Of course, the biggest limitation is extremely obvious when you look at this setup based on like how we view modern rifles, and that is going to be limited rail space. It's also not free floated. So that led us to this guy here, and this is the RIS II, which is probably the most prolific, most proven combat handguard ever produced for the AR-15. In fact, I don't think that's even arguable. It absolutely is. So these came in a number of different configurations. This one here was part of the Block 2 program, the SOP-Mod Block 2 program, and they made these both with the cutouts for the FSB and then, of course, without the cutouts for the FSB. And that's kind of the history of it, but this was revolutionary for its time. And again, it's still, in terms of durability, bomb-proofness, one of the absolute best handguards ever made, and it has some capabilities that others before it didn't have. And one of the most important features this rail had versus other competitive offerings out there on the market is the fact that you could actually detach the lower part of the handguard by removing these screws here on each side, and then this part drops off and you can attach your grenade launcher. Now, I actually have a special treat for the audience today before we get into the RIS III handguard, and it is an experimental handguard that was in between these two that I don't think has ever been seen on YouTube before. But before we get into that, and then the RIS III, we do need to thank the sponsor of today's video. Before continuing on, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is American Hartford Gold. Anybody who's watched the channel knows that I am not a huge fan of fiat currency, and that is an understatement. There's a plethora of reasons why that might be. Constant inflation, banks failing, the government threatening to bring about a digital currency. And as firearms owners know, you cannot count on the government for your protection. Our friends at American Hartford Gold can help you diversify your portfolio from just fiat-based currency to physical gold and silver, so that way you diversify that risk across the board. American Hartford Gold has thousands of 5-star ratings and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, plus they support content like this, which certainly is not the case with all companies, as many of you know. When you reach out to them now, they will give you up to $5,000 in free gold or silver, and you can let them know that I sent you by texting code GEAR to the number here on your screen or giving them a call at 866-856-2097. Again, that is 866-856-2097, or text GEAR to 65532. Now back to the video. As we just teased earlier in the video, this is the special treat I have for you guys today. So this rail right here, again, I don't think has ever been seen on YouTube before. And to the best of my knowledge, I'm the only one that has one in my hands, probably besides Marty Daniels. So this rail right here is the evolution of the product. So this, again, the RIS II that we all know and love, 1913 rail. Has the lockup system that we're going to talk about here in just a second, which again is one of the best things about the RIS II. There's a lot of good things. That's one of them for sure. And this right here was something that was proposed for a couple different contracts. I know one of them was the Air Force's upgrade program, and then also some JSOC programs that were going around in the mid 2010s. And as you can see, it keeps a lot of the same features as the RIS II. It still is a two-piece handguard that has these screws at each side. It has the exact same bolt interface here at the rear with the longer piece on top there that, again, the RIS II is known for. Also has the helicoils in the back there, which all of the RIS II handguards have. And helicoils, for folks that don't know, particularly when you're dealing with aluminum, what they do is they make the screw interface way stronger, like orders of magnitude stronger. And the prototype here has it, so that's actually kind of cool to see on the prototype, because it was never a finished product. This is never a production product. And again, there's just not many of them out there, so it's very cool to see. But as you can see, we have MLOK at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions, but then not at the offset position. So if you look here at our actual production RIS III, they are, of course, at all of the offset positions. And this one also has the ventilation holes, just like the RIS II has there on top for cooling. But of course, our RIS III does not have them. So it's interesting to see what they kept and what they didn't keep. But this one, at the business end of the gun, would have 1913 rails rather than going with the MLOK. In my opinion on that, just a guess, I do not know this. Folks at Untitled Defense didn't tell me this, but my guess is, particularly at the time this was being fielded, MLOK was relatively new, and you got to keep in mind it was around for a few years in the civilian sector, but the military moved slowly to adopt new technologies, which is smart. I think that's wise. You want things that are proven if you're going into combat with them, and I think out here at the end, where a lot of folks mount lights, lasers, etc., they wanted that proven 1913 lockup. And even to this day, any engineer, mechanical engineer will tell you that the MLOK slots, of course, are very, very strong, but the 1913 interface is stronger in extreme conditions. And that's probably why they went with that, because MLOK was new, not quite proven when this was proposed. But this obviously ended up not being adopted, and there are extremely limited numbers of these available in America right now. So it's very cool. I get to bring you guys one of these just to see a piece of history. Now, on to what we're actually talking about for the first time, the RIS III. So that's the rail that we have here, and you guys can check out. Like we mentioned, MLOK all the way around both 3, 6, and 9, as well as the offset positions. Of course, we still have the T-marked top on there. This particular one is the 12.5-inch rail. They come in a number of different sizes, and as of now, they actually come in black as well. When these were first introduced, they were only available in the traditional RIS brown, if you will, but now they come in black as well, and still keeps that two-piece system there where the bottom can come out. They also make these with the front sight block cutout. So if you wanted a MLOK version of this exact rail here, which a lot of us do, because of course the front sight block is the way that God wants your AR-15 to come. It's the strongest method, and it just looks cool if nothing else, but it is also very proven, and I love sight blocks, as anybody on the channel here knows, so that is an option as well. But one thing that you'll see that's a little bit different is if you look like at the top portion here, the engraved portions of the actual RIS II rail, you'll see all the NSN codes, all the military adoption codes. But what you don't see on the RIS III, if you look at that, is any of those, because as of right now, of course, that hasn't happened. Who knows what will happen in the future, but just kind of walking through the handguard overall. Start back here at the rear, we do have the lockup system here from Untitled Defense, and what's unique about the RIS III is the way that this rear piece here interfaces with where it locks up on the barrel nut. These screws are all tightened down. You want to tighten them alternately. Untitled Defense has a how-to video for installing your RIS rails. I was going to do it in this video, but I was like, I'll just put a link down below so you guys can look at it if you're interested in that. But it also shows just how strong this lockup system is. It kind of all clamps together, and nowadays, 2023 and beyond, depending on when you're watching this, there's a lot of companies that are offering like custom upper receivers that interface in basically the exact same way that this did. I believe this was adopted in 2005, this system here by the military. And there are companies now that are, forging uppers, forging handguards very specifically to achieve essentially what Untitled Defense achieved in 2005. So it is pretty cool in terms of a design aspect. Now, of course, it is heavier back here at the rear than a lot of other handguard options at on the market. But one thing it does with that clamping system, clamping around the barrel nut like it does, is it makes it rigid, like super, super rigid. A couple years ago now, as of when I'm filming this, there was a lot of controversy on the forums about like bendy rails and things like that, losing your zero on lasers, and there's no doubt that absolutely can happen. But the RIS II, obviously this one here, was proven to be pretty much the winner in every one of those contests, with the exception of what I kind of hinted at earlier with the companies that were specifically forging their uppers and lowers in a specific way, like a custom way to make them more rigid. There's been a ton of testing done. You guys can look around the internet if you're bored, and you'll see that for a traditional free float handguard like this that uses a mil-spec upper receiver, the RIS II at the time basically won every time. Now, the beauty of the RIS III is that it keeps all of that same rigidity. Now, you may think you're lying to me, that's not true. If it has MLOK slots, it has to be less rigid. And talking to the folks at Daniel Defense, they say that's absolutely not true. And just from feeling it, it absolutely feels like it could not be true. And an indicator to that is that it's not much lighter. Like when I first saw this on the internet, I was like, man, that's gonna be way lighter than the RIS II, but it's not. For a 12.5-inch version like we have here, and then we have here, and that's not counting the cutout version. So pretend it doesn't have the cutout on there. You're only gaining rather about 2 ounces going with the MLOK in terms of lightweightness. Now that can be a pro and a con, right? So the pro of that is exactly what I just said. It's very rigid, very durable. The con of it is that it's heavier than some competitive offerings. Now the beauty of it is that most of that weight is back here. So the weight is where you want it. If you're gonna have weight, you want it towards the rear of the rifle. But again, it is a pro and a con versus other options. Now, of course, you know, one thing this does is it allows you to mount grenade launchers, which most free float rails don't. I'm not sure how big of a selling point that is for a lot of you, but certainly could be applicable depending on where this country goes. Now, one thing I also want to point out is that back here at the rear on both the 3 and 9 o'clock position, we do have an anti-rotation QD slots. So in the actual aluminum of the rail, and I should mention the rail is made out of 7075 aluminum, which also distinguishes it from most of the rails out there on the market. Almost all rails, there's a couple exceptions, are made out of 6061 aluminum. This is 7075, so again, it's just more rigid than the other offerings out there, but it has the anti-rotation mechanism milled into the actual aluminum. Pro and con there, so being anti-rotational is a pro without question in my opinion. That said, if you've watched this channel for a while now, we talk about handguards. One thing I say is that if you have a quick detach point on your handguard and your handguard is aluminum, even 7075, if you use it enough, eventually that will wear down from the steel insert going in and out and just moving around on there. That said, it's a very easy fix. Obviously, being MLOK, you can attach a steel QD point anywhere along the rail that you see fit. At this point in the video, there's just a couple things I want to talk about before we close it out. First and foremost, just full disclosure, Daniel Defense, of course, did send this out to me. I did request it as soon as I saw the online promotions. I was like, need that in my life. One thing that folks were asking on social media when I was originally posting this is, if you have a RIS II handguard, can you just drop a RIS III in? You can. It is literally the exact same mounting mechanism back here at the rear. So if you just want to drop it in there, you can do so. So no worries there. The other thing, of course, that we always need to talk about is going to be price point. That is a con of this handguard for sure. Price point right now, I believe the MSRP on this is like $476, of course, depending on the length. But for this one right here, the 12.5, that is expensive. There's no doubt about it. And honestly, I've seen it online. It's been out for a few months now, and every time it comes in stock, it's at list price and it sells out. So the downside of that, of course, is it's expensive. The upside, I guess, for Daniel Defense is that it's still selling extremely well regardless. And I think, again, it just comes down to folks want something proven and bomb-proof. Now, one pro or con, depending on how you look at it, is going to be the diameter. So it is larger than a lot of free float offerings, and a lot of folks will like that, myself included. I personally like it a little bit bigger. I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I like that BCM, real low profile MLOK rail, but then at the end of the day, it does sometimes feel a little bit tight, and of course it also is closer to the barrel. If you have a smaller circumference rail, and it will get hotter a little quicker, this rail does a great job at dissipating heat. One of the reasons for that, of course, is that it has those offset MLOK points that allow just more airflow in there, and obviously the AR15 is an air-cooled weapon, so that definitely does help. Another thing to point out is that as of when, of course, we're filming this, Daniel Defense has released their RIS III rifles. So obviously they just sent the handguard in and we mounted it up on a poverty pony that we already had just to trigger the audience. It's the same reason we put these sights on there and the right-on optic, just to get the comments going, because that's how YouTube works. But if you want to buy a full rifle from Daniel Defense or uppers, you can do so. And if you're watching this anywhere besides YouTube, the links will be down below to do that. But they offer a 16-inch, 11.5-inch, 10.3-inch, and probably other offerings that I'm not aware of. 14.5 as well with a pin flash hider. So they offer those from the factory. If you guys want that option, it is available for you. And with that, I think we will close it out. If you guys like this type of video and you're not subscribed, definitely hit the subscribe button. If you are subscribed and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week, make sure you hit the notification bell. And if that's still not happening, you can sign up for the email, and you might as well do it anyway, even if you are seeing them. You can sign up for the email at the website here on your screen. This email goes out once a month, and it has all of the videos since the previous month's email went out, so that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content through an algorithm. Additionally, if this goes on sale, any of the items that we've seen in the video go on sale, any of the other accoutrements that we have go on sale, ammo, optics, etc., it will go out in my daily deals email. If it's in that email, it's the cheapest on the internet I know of anywhere, because I've already done the price comparisons for you. It's got like 8 usually of the best deals, and it also has a good meme that everybody likes. A lot of people subscribe just for the meme, but the daily deals email is fire. I highly recommend you guys check it out. Everyone loves it. We have a virtually 0 unsubscribe rate, and that's it. Thank you all for watching. I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.